Welcome to From Root to Crown with Rebby Goebel, your guide to self-discovery and personal growth. I'm your host and a certified trauma-informed breathwork facilitator, Reiki master healer, and intuitive guide. Join me as we explore spirituality, alternative healing, and tools like breathwork, human design, astrology, and meditation to help you lead a more balanced, aligned, and joyful life. Remember, you are your own teacher and medicine. Keep listening for practical tips to incorporate this week's insights and inspiration on your transformative journey. Hello, and welcome back to episode 3 of From Root to Crown with Rebby Goebel. Today, we're going to be talking about breathwork, meditation's big sister. Breathwork is a portal to some really deep healing work that happens inside your body when you connect to your breath in a mindful way. We're going to talk a little bit today about the neuroscience that is coming out that simply backs up what ancient civilizations across the world have known for millennia. How you breathe impacts every aspect of your mental and physical well-being. We're going to talk about some pros and cons of different types of breathwork sessions. We're going to talk about who should not do breathwork. And then at the end, I'm going to leave you with a mini session to build up your mental and energetic foundation. So, what is breath work? Let's start there. I touched on it briefly in the introduction, but really what breath work is, when you boil it down, it's holding some sort of breathing pattern, intentional breathing pattern that's outside of how you normally breathe, and breathing that way intentionally and for a specified period of time. I don't care whether it's 5 minutes, 8 minutes, or 90 minutes, it all counts as breath work. There have been many different methodologies that have either been created or resurrected, again, from these ancient practices found around the world. But with its rise in popularity has come some irresponsibility around what happens during breathwork sessions. So breathwork is a way to really crack into, crack through rather, the mental barrier that we have around um, feeling things and understanding things from a mental level. And it allows us to get deeper into the body and unhook the mind so that you can actually receive messages from your deeper wisdom, right? From the you that's connected to source and is has a lot more wisdom than what our brains might be thinking at any given time. So, with that comes some responsibility to make sure, first and foremost, that you are practicing breath work safely. I had this slated later in my outline, but I think it's really in my heart to share this right from the beginning. There are some people who should not participate in breath work. There are several physical conditions that are contraindicated for breath work. So if you have any sort of heart condition, if you are currently pregnant, if you have blood pressure issues, if you have osteoporosis, if you have any sort of hernias, if you have recently had surgery, and interestingly, if you have any sort of retinal detachment or pressure in your eye issues, the act of breathing with intentionality and intensity can change the pressures in your body. And what you're actually doing by over breathing is changing the pH of your blood and therefore of your body. You're changing your oxygen levels, you're changing your carbon dioxide levels in your body, which is going to create different sensations in your body as you go through breath work. The other thing that I think is really important if you are seeking out a breathwork practitioner is that they're trauma informed and that they've truly been trained in how to manage and handle any sort of trauma that may bubble up to the surface. I have spoken to a number of friends who have done breathwork and were a little unsettled at best or outright re-traumatized at worst because things got brought up in the session and the facilitator didn't know how to, one, help them in the session, or two, provide any sort of aftercare counseling, coaching on the back end. I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, but I know how to work with clients to help them manage their system so that we minimize the chances of being re-traumatized. Many of these modalities are world opening and mind bending when you get deep and you're really in your process. Um, some people just feel really relaxed. Other people go to the stars. So you can really have a variety of different reactions to breath work. And sometimes that is bringing up a trigger, bringing up a traumatic event in the past. So I just want to make sure that as you're looking around your community or online for breathwork experience, whether that's in group or in person, that you do your due diligence, especially if you have trauma in your background and something that you are actively working on. If you think that that may get brought up during a breathwork session, I want to make sure you are aware that that can be pretty intense during a breathwork session and afterwards. So make sure that you choose your practitioner with care. Okay. All the warnings aside, breathwork is a really, really beautiful practice. And I call it meditation's big sister for a reason. Meditation, in a lot of instances, requires some self-discipline and it can be a very mental practice. And for a lot of us, we spend too much time in our brains as it is. So by connecting with our breath and using the breath as a focus, number one, and two, capitalizing on the physiological changes that happens in our bodies in response to overbreathing, we can really get into our bodies, drop from the mind even deeper than the body and into that connection with source and soul and yourself so that you can receive deeper levels of wisdom. Practically speaking, most of us are dealing with depression or anxiety or some level of stress. It's a way to give yourself some distance between the stressor and yourself. And during the breathwork session, depending on whether you're working one-on-one with somebody or again in a group setting, what we find is that we can gain a little bit of perspective and a little bit of distance between ourselves and whatever it is that's happening so that we can gain different perspective. I know from my own personal experience and from my clients, a lot of times sitting down to do a new practice can create anxiety in and of itself. I had one client who came to me and said, I just can't even take two deep breaths without feeling my heart pounding, without feeling my anxiety start to spiral. So, despite many therapists telling me that I should try some deep breathing and try breath work and that it can really help with anxiety, for her, it made her anxiety worse to try and do it on her own. So, she came to me and was like, I don't even know if you can do anything, but I'm here. Let's try it. And so we were able to start with just trying 2 deep breaths at first, and then we tried to I had her breathe deeply through a specific song. And then we just started stretching and flexing this muscle for her. So over the course of 8 plus weeks that I saw her weekly for, she was able to move to the point where she was doing breath work for 45 minutes and was able to share some of these practices with her daughters and really change her outlook on life and gave her some tools that really allowed her to support herself through her anxiety and through any sort of panic attacks that she had been suffering from. In my own life, I feel like breathwork has really allowed me to go to that deeper level of healing. I lost my dad in 2021 after a early and vicious battle with Alzheimer's, and then moved my mom here, and through all of that just had some tremendous guilt, had some tremendous anxiety, some a tremendous amount of grief, as you can, I'm sure, relate to. And breath work was one of the things that really allowed me to resolve some lingering issues that I had and reconnect to myself and source during a period of time where I didn't have a whole lot of capacity to do that. And my practices of meditation and Reiki weren't quite getting me to the level of healing that I was wanting to experience. So, as I mentioned, breathwork is breathing in a specific pattern for a specific period of time. And there's different breathwork patterns that can be used depending on what you're trying to achieve. So, for me, what I tend to use more in my personal practice and with my clients is a down regulating breathing pattern as opposed to one that blasts you off into the stars. It's no less profound. It's not a lesser form of breath work. It just depends on what our goal is, whether we want to upregulate the system and get more energy in and have these wild breakthroughs, or if we want to increase calm and safety and security in your system. And cultures across the world have used these practices for millennia, from certain practices saying that breathing is the only cure that you need. The Native American cultures were convinced that breathing through the nose was the cure for everything, and that if you breathe through your mouth, you were opening up a portal for evil spirits to enter into your system. So they had complicated straps that they would sleep they would strap their babies' mouths shut so that they could only breathe through their nose. And it's interesting because physiologically, science is just now kind of rediscovering some of these things and being able to identify how breathing is actually changing our bodies and can provide benefits to both your mental health and your physical well-being. One last thing here, as we're discussing the kind of the background of breathwork and its resurgence, I'm going to read you a passage from a book called Breath by James Nestor. And what he says here, he's kind of summarizing everything, all the research and everything that he did personally in the book here. He says, what I explained to each of these people and what I'd like to make clear now is that breathing, like any therapy or medication, can't do everything. Breathing fast, slow, or not at all can't make an embolism go away. Breathing through the nose with a big exhale can't reverse the onset of neuromuscular genetic diseases. No breathing can heal stage 4 cancer. These severe problems require urgent medical attention. Then he goes on to say, but modern medicine still has limitations. Modern medicine, they said, was amazingly efficient at cutting out and stitching up parts of the body in emergencies, but sadly deficient at treating milder chronic systemic maladies, the asthma, headaches, stress, and autoimmune issues that most of the population contends with. These doctors explained in so many words and in so many ways that a middle-aged man complaining of work stress, irritable bowels, depression, and an occasional tingling in his fingers wasn't going to get the same attention as a patient with kidney failure. And then he follows up with just saying, like all Eastern medicines, breathing techniques are best suited to serve as preventative maintenance, a way to retain balance in the body. Should we lose that balance from time to time, breathing can often bring it back. I really like that quote because it sums up what I think really what I'm trying to say here. Breathwork can have massive transformative benefits, but it's done best in a consistent practice and a preventative practice. So if you are coming to breathwork practices with a laundry list of ailments and issues, it's going to take you longer to get your system back to neutral and get your system back to equilibrium. So be patient with any of these practices. So some of the things that you can do that are considered breathwork practices are really simple. You can just take a deep breath in and let it out. We talked about this in my meditation episode, last episode, that some of my simplest meditation techniques are breath work at their foundation, at the basis of them. You can continue that same breathing pattern of in through the nose, out through the mouth for as long as feels comfortable to you. You can play with the intensity, you can play with the frequency, and you can play with the duration. Now, this isn't much different than your natural breathing pattern. It's probably slower, probably a little bit deeper. So if you can't participate in breath work because of the issues that I already listed out, just focusing on your natural breath is enough as well. It's going to give you that focus to get into the meditative state to receive some distance from your stressors and your triggers and give you that same change in perspective. You may have heard about a tripart breath where it's 2 inhales in and 1 exhale out. That one is a little more intense and one that I recommend you either find an app that will guide you through or a practitioner to lead you through a group or individual session. While there are physiological benefits, and we are changing the pH of our blood and we are going through and creating a different environment within our body, the true magic comes in persisting past the point where the breathing feels like a struggle and getting to the point where it starts to flow and where your mind goes quiet and your own wisdom then can arise from deeper within you without the chatter of your anxiety, the to-do list, and whatever else is going on around you. I know I had shared that there is a lot of interesting science happening. I am not a neuroscientist, so again, I would refer you to read this book, Breath by James Nestor. He shares about his own experience as a what he calls a pulmonaut, so someone who's exploring themselves and their breath. He does reference here that more than 7 independent studies conducted at Harvard Medical School, Columbia College of Physicians and Surgeons, and other institutions found that a particular type of breath work was a highly effective treatment for a range of ailments, everything from chronic stress to joint pain and autoimmune diseases. And what I think is interesting is that science has been studying breath and breathing with limited success and kind of varying outcomes for centuries. And just now has the science really caught up to being able to explain why breath work provides at least the physiological responses that it does. And we will never be able to explain the mental and spiritual connections. I just don't think that our understanding with science will ever get there. So some of this you may just have to take on faith. I think everyone who has experienced breathwork with me, whether they came at it from a purely practical standpoint or because they are deep into their spiritual journey like I am, they've all gained benefit from their breathwork practice and participating in either one-on-one sessions with me or in group sessions. I think that there are some pretty simple ways to bring breathwork into your life. Again, it can be as short as a couple of deep breaths. To be a true breathwork practice, you really need to be between 3 to 8 minutes is a good time frame to breathe and not need a longer period of reintegration on the backside. So a shorter session like that, 8 minutes and under, can be done to laser focus on a specific issue that you might be working on, reduce stress in the moment, reset your nervous system. Longer sessions where you go into the 10, 15, 25, 45-minute range, the chances are higher that you're going to have a much bigger breakthrough. You're going to go deeper into the practice, and you might need some time on the back end to process whatever it is that came through. So if I've got a really busy day, I may turn on a song that I love and spend the 3.5 minutes breathing deeply, just allowing my energy to recenter and allowing my mind to clear. That's enough. That's an easy way that you can incorporate breath work into your daily life. There are apps that you can download. I hesitate to recommend apps to beginners because I think that there's something to be said for investing in at least one-on-one session with an expert when you're starting any sort of a practice, because then you can explain your situation and get some breath work that's tailored specifically to you and experience it with someone who can hold space and guide you through the process. With an app, if something really big happens, there is no one there to help you process whatever came up, to provide any sort of guidance, even just to let you know that what you experienced is normal. So for beginners, I really do think that a one-on-one session is a great investment. Group breath work in person is a great way to start as well, assuming that you are starting breath work with a smaller group. My first breath work session was a Zoom where my camera wasn't even on because there were so many people on this Zoom that there was probably 200 of us in this breathwork session. And while the facilitator did a really great job, a beautiful job of guiding us through, I had nobody to talk to on the back end about my experience. Whereas if you're in person or in a smaller group, you have access to that facilitator. And if they're a good facilitator, they're going to give you some tools and some support on the back end to process through your breathwork session and what may have arisen for you. I want to make sure to underline that breathwork is a practice and something that you get better at. It's something where every breathwork session is different. So you might have an amazing experience the first time, feel floaty, feel super relaxed. And then the next time you're like, this sucks. This is stupid. I hate this. This is so hard. Why is this so hard? Why can't I get back to that floaty feeling? So every breathwork session is different. Unfortunately, we can't just like dial in a knob and the same results every single time. Your nervous system is different every single time. Your mindset is different every single time. And your energy is different every single time. So you are not going to be able to exactly recreate any one session, no matter how much you might want to. So again, it takes practice. It's different every single time. And you've just got to be patient. Like, in the excerpt of the book that I read, it is a best when used as a preventative, right? As maintenance, as opposed to in response to an acute situation that you have going on. But it's a beautiful complement to any sort of mental health work that you might be doing. So if you're doing some sort of talk therapy, um, that has its place, and breathwork is just a beautiful complement to that. So you might find that you have a therapist and a breathwork facilitator, and what comes up for you during breathwork one week is what then you take to your therapist the next week to talk through and gain some greater clarity around it. And then the next week you come and breathe back into whatever your intention is. The next week, then you go see your therapist. And so again, it can be just a beautiful complement so that you are working on things both mentally and somatically through your body as well. Here in a moment, I'm going to get us settled into a mini breathwork session. I want to take a moment to reiterate here who should not continue on with this process, who should not participate in the breathwork session that I am about to lead for you. You should not do this if you are pregnant. You should not do this if you have any heart issues. You should not do this if you have any sort of hospital level mental health issues. You should not do this if you have any sort of eye issues around pressure in your eyes, retinal detachment, glaucoma, those types of things. If you've been hospitalized in the last 6 months, you should not do this. You're more than welcome to stay and listen to the words that I'm going to say and enjoy the music, but I do not want you to follow any of the cues for breathing that I might provide over the course of the next 15 minutes. Instead, I just want you to focus on your natural breathing. Just stay with your natural breathing. It can be nice and slow and however you want to breathe, whether that's in through the nose and out through the mouth or just in and out through your nose. So you're welcome to listen, but hear me now. You should not do the active breathing that I'm going to be cueing over the next 15 minutes. In case you are going to bounce and not listen to the breathwork piece, thank you so much for joining me here today and talking about breathwork. I'm by no means an expert in the field. I'm simply an enthusiast and know that it has made a very big difference in my own life and in my own healing journey. There are many different places and ways for you to engage in breathwork within your own community and online. If you are interested in working with me one-on-one, you can head to Rebbe Goebel, that's REBEGOEBEL.com. The link is in the show notes, but rebbegoebel.com, and get some more information on my services, including breathwork, and book your first session there. I do offer group sessions and both local here in St. Louis and online. So information is always available at that website as well if I have a session coming up. And if you don't decide to work with me, I would just want to reiterate that make sure you do your due diligence on whichever facilitator you choose to work with. Make sure that they have a trauma-informed background and that they are skilled in being able to work with people who have your concerns and that they provide education up front and care on the back end of any sort of breathwork session and experience that they provide. I hope that you really enjoyed this podcast talking about breathwork, and I hope you enjoy the upcoming little mini session here in just a moment. Over the next couple of episodes, we are going to talk about strengthening your intuition and dive into energy work, and there will be a mini meditation released as well. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing, giving us a follow, and sharing this with somebody else as a brand new podcast. That means the world to me. I'm going to have a giveaway here next week for anybody who drops a review for the podcast and sends in a screenshot of that. I'm going to be giving away a one-on-one session. So if you are paying attention, then you can get a jump on it. But all the details will come out next week in the next podcast. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, let's get settled and get ready to dive into a breathwork session. If you are driving, if you are operating any sort of heavy machinery, if you have small people under your watchful eye, if you're responsible for children right now, please bookmark this, come back to it. I will provide a minute marker in the show notes here so you'll know exactly where to come back to listen to this. But you need to be in a safe space where you can sit back and relax, have your head supported, and be able to close your eyes and really focus on yourself. So, I know I like to listen to podcasts while I'm in, driving around town or walking the dog or doing the dishes or whatever. Come back to this if you are multitasking and listening at while you're doing something else. Carve out 15 minutes here for yourself and come back to this when you can have a quiet moment. Okay. In case you have never done breath work before, let me run through what you can expect to experience during the next 15 minutes here together. And just so that you have a deeper understanding of what's going on here. So, breathwork changes the pH of our systems. So, as you go through this breathing practice while we are using a gentle breath pattern, you may still feel some tingling in your fingers or in your toes. You might experience some tingling around your mouth as well. If you were to participate in a more intense version of breath work, you might even get a contracture, like a muscle cramp in your hands. It's called tetany, turns your hand into a little lobster claw. But I would not expect that to happen given the breathing that I am going to cue you into. The other thing that I want you to remember is that first and foremost, this is your experience. And especially as this is not happening live, I don't have you on my screen, I'm not watching you breathe. I have no way of knowing what's happening in your system right now. I want you to remember that you are your number one guide and source of truth. So, at any point, if I suggest that you take a deep breath and hold it, or try a more intense breathing pattern, or anything like that, if that doesn't feel supportive to you, I am going to celebrate you for listening to yourself, for advocating for yourself. Even though I'm not there, there's nobody watching you. You don't have to push back on anybody. Some of us, it's so ingrained to do what somebody else tells us to do that it can be hard to break out of that mold and that paradigm. So listen to me when I say this again. I will celebrate you for listening to yourself and doing what feels best for you. Number one, that's the biggest thing that I want you to remember. The next thing that I want to name is that movement and sound are welcome, normal parts of a breathwork practice. And by movement, I mean you are more than welcome to find comfort at any point during the session. So if you need to roll over, if you need to sneeze, if you need to itch your nose, if you need to bring your knees up and move them side to side, if you can stay connected to your breath, great. If not, take a quick, I was going to say breather, but pause the active breathing for a minute and give yourself a break and then jump right back in when you're ready. As far as other movements that are welcome and normal parts, maybe you might need to shake your hands or wiggle your jaw back and forth or put a supportive hand on your heart or on the top of your head or wherever it might feel good in your body. The sound piece of breath work, it's totally normal to want to make sounds while you are breathing and while you're moving energy. A lot of energy and so much manifestation happens, so much clearing happens through our throat chakras. So giving voice and allowing that energy to move through your vocal cords is really powerful. And I'm not talking about a Disney princess little like, no, no, no. I'm talking about allowing yourself to make whatever sounds feel right. Trust your body. Trust that this needs to happen. So as you're breathing, if you're taking a deep inhale in, and your exhale wants to sound like this, that is perfect too, especially in this situation where you are in the privacy of your own environment and you don't even have me listening to you. So I want you to welcome all of those movements and all of those vocalizations into the next 15-minute practice. The breath that we are going to be doing today is really simple. It's called a halo active breath, and it's in through the nose, out through the mouth. And it's called a halo because it connects in that cycle, right? Of just in, out, in, out. That can look as fast as, or it can be as slow and juicy as you want to make it. I'm going to leave that intensity and that pace up to you. So over the next 10 minutes now, we're going to drop you into a quick guided meditation just to allow your energy to really land here and settle in. I will guide you. I'll cue you when to start with that active breathing. We'll breathe for 2 songs. And then at the end, I give you a nice, slow time to reintegrate. And we're just going to allow that music to carry us out of this podcast. You won't hear my voice again once I wake you back up. If you would like to share anything with me, please reach out on socials. I'm at Rebby Goebel across most of the platforms. So please share your takeaways with me. Please leave me a review and let me know if this episode really supported you and helped you see how breathwork can work in your daily life. Okay, let's get to it. I want you to take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. One more, just like that. Just sticking with your natural breath for now. Allow yourself to settle. Settle into the surface below you. And if it feels comfortable and safe to do so, close your eyes. And just start the gentle scan of your body to see what's here, what's present for you right now. As we work to simply soothe your nervous system and remind you of your connection to Source. Starting at your head, notice what's here, what's present for you right now. Attaching no judgment and no stories to anything that you find. Just allow yourself to take inventory. And on your next inhale, allow your awareness to follow that breath from your head, through your throat, and land in your chest. Feeling into what's present here in this chest area. Noticing any physical sensations, any areas of crunchiness or contraction or sorrow or stress. Not aiming to do anything about it right now. No need to change anything. Just noticing what's here. Allowing one more breath to bring your awareness even deeper down into that kernel in the center of your being, down into your gut. When you feel ready, go ahead and move into that active breathing pattern, that halo breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. You get to pick the pace. You get to pick the intensity as you work to connect that inhale in through your nose as it goes down to the base of your tailbone with the exhale that reverses that path and comes up, 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 and out. Every inhale is an expansion, bringing in more life force, more energy, more support from the universe and your environment. And every exhale is a release and creates more space for the next inhale. And as you continue with this breathing, as you stay right here, I want you to allow yourself to ask yourself, that part of you that's connected to wisdom, what do I need more of right now? Keep breathing. That's it. And as you allow yourself to recognize what you need more of, maybe something comes to you that you need less of. That the foundation under your feet would feel more stable, more secure if you removed something. Allow every inhale to call forward more of what would be supportive. And every exhale releases that which no longer serves. Stick with me here. Allow every inhale to be another stone, another brick, another layer in the foundation that you're building for your energy to rest on. Perhaps it would feel supportive to feel into the connection that you have with the ground beneath you. With every inhale, envision energy and resource flowing from the ground into you, into your body, feeling into the support, the surface that you're resting on, and the ground below you. And allow every breath in to build on that foundation. That's it. Breathing at your own pace and your own intensity. Releasing what no longer serves you, releasing what's getting in the way, releasing all of those worries, all of those things that aren't going to matter in 5 months or 5 years, letting them go. Your next exhale, make it so big and juicy and just let it go. That's it. Giving yourself permission to receive and release. Just a couple more seconds here. This way you have plenty of time in a moment to relax. This next inhale right here, the deepest inhale you've had yet, in through the nose. And let it all out. Releasing that active breathing and allowing your normal breathing pattern to return. Taking a moment here to repeat that scan that you did at the beginning. Starting in your mind, noticing what may have shifted, what might be present now that wasn't here before. Or what you may have released now. See if some tension is gone from your eyebrow or your jaw. I invite you to bring your awareness further down again through your throat into your heart space. Noticing what may have shifted. Again, with no judgment, attaching no stories to what may or may not be here now. Just give yourself a moment to notice. Have your shoulders dropped. Has your energy settled? Can you feel the shift in your foundation, your energy? If not, that's okay too. Just keep breathing. And as you move your awareness one more time to that core of you and your spirit, seeing if you can bring yourself fully into the energy of gratitude, being grateful to yourself for carving these 10 minutes out, giving yourself the gift of moving and shifting through your breath. I am so thankful for you. Last deep breath in Let it all go. From here, taking a moment to bring some easy movement back into your fingers and your toes. Maybe stretching, bringing gentle movement back in as you expand your awareness outside of yourself, back to the environment around you. Welcome back. I'll see you next time.